Okay, so how we work with you process is really important. Okay, so let's take a step back and look at sort of the 4 reasons that people make purchasing decisions. So like this is like the 30,000 feet view, the strategic point of view here. So there's 4 reasons that people buy. Number 1 is personal gain. You're buying that because you want it, right? Number 2 is logic and research. Okay, and that's sort of where this part, the how we work with you process, is coming into it. 3 is social proof or third-party influence. That's your case studies, your social proof that it works for other people and that other people have got really nice homes and I want that as well. And then fear of missing out. So that's like FOMO basically. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got to keep up with the Joneses, right? So there's 4 reasons that people buy. And today we're really looking at that second reason. We're addressing people's logic and research. We're addressing people's basically logical decision making going, oh, this is totally, it sounds great, but this is actually how they do it. Okay, fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. So that's what we're addressing today with the how we work with you process. And also looking at the sales process that we've gone over quite a few times recently, moving from the top of the sales funnel, which is what we call tofu, to the middle of the sales funnel that we call mofu, and the bottom of the sales funnel, which we call bofu. So people go through their sales funnel at different speeds, right? Like, that some people will sit on the fence for ages and take ages to make a decision on who their builder is going to be, and others will just come to you and be like, yeah, you saw something of yours on Facebook and now I'm ready to do it. They will have gone through this sales funnel process at different speeds, but they'll have seen the same stuff and they'll have gone through it in the same order. So at the top of the funnel, it's all awareness. So Nikki, like you were saying, that person got in touch with your Facebook post that you ran from a few weeks back that we had a Thursday morning on, and that's your awareness stuff, right? So it ideally would have probably appealed more to their emotive state, right? It was like a cool, amazing looking home, or it was an epic looking kitchen. I'm pretty sure you used the loft conversion or something like that from memory. After they see that and they go, far out, that looks epic. Then you want to move into the engagement stuff, and that's the MOFU. That's the educational stuff. So from a short timeline, they would have seen the post, then they would have started reading it, okay? And then they would, or from a longer timeline, they might have Googled. The awareness would have been the Google AdWords popping up and going, oh, these guys exist. The engagement and educational part would have been them reading through your website, looking at stuff, potentially downloading an ebook. And then the conversion part would have been the call to action, the reason why, the reason to get in touch with you, and the actual sending of the message or the phone call to you, right? So today's how we work with you process is definitely towards the bottom end of the sales funnel, okay? It's educational and it's logic based. It doesn't look awesome. It's not like the pretty pictures, the cool emotive posts about how amazing people's lives are after they've built a new home. It's about the logic-based decision-making that people are going through as they make a decision on which builder to go with. Okay, so sales process today is about the bottom part of the sales funnel. Okay, so any questions about that, please just shout out, all right? Now, there's a bunch of really good examples of how we work with you processes out there. And the reality is that they're very similar to one another, okay? So they are really the same main core steps. It's like, get in touch with us. We have a site visit. We put some prices together. Then we maybe review those. Then we sign the contract. Then we start the build sort of thing. What we want to focus on, though, is more specifically sort of the benefits and making it really visually appealing, because people aren't always going to sit down and read stuff, okay? In the age that we live in, like, time is everyone's most precious commodity. So what we want to do is we want to make it as easy as possible for people to clearly understand and see what it is that we're delivering, the process that we're going through. So a visual sequence process is really important, okay? So what we want to do is we want to lay out the steps in a visual way so that we can adopt what's called in direct response marketing a dual readership pathway. Not dual like get your lightsaber out and have a fight, but dual as in two, all right? So dual readership pathway. The first pathway is that they can take a glance at something and go, oh shit, there's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sweet, that's pretty straightforward. And the second readership pathway is the detail in the longer copy. Okay, so the first one is I can take a glance at something and go, oh yeah, there's the first, next, then, and finally, right? Okay, so first we start here, then next we're going to move on to this, then we're going to do that, and finally we're going to jump into this. Okay, so that's the dual readership pathway. You want to show how it's sequenced, okay, by either numbering it or having arrows pointing through it, or you just want to really visually display it, okay? This is sort of where like infographics come in and they look really good to visually display quite complex sort of principles or things, okay? So we also through this process want to show and tell, okay? So it's not good enough to just tell people about it. We want to show them about it as well. So we want to not just tell them that we're going to then start construction. We want to show them, you know, the guys are going to then move onto site and they're going to start construction, or we're going to, don't just tell them we're going to sit down and have a site visit or review your plans. Show them, have a picture of you guys actually sitting down and reviewing some plans, because we want them to be able to see what it's going to look like. The more that we can reduce like the uncertainty and the unknown, the lower their sort of, the lower their barriers are going to come down and the higher their trust is going to come up. So the more that you can show people rather than just telling them, the better. And that's why videos work really well, okay? Because you do both at exactly the same time, but it's also easy just to have like photos accompanying stuff next to it. Like for example, if I just jump back here to Paul's one, he's got, this is Paul from Paul Reed Homes, okay? So he's got 3 budget and pricing, and he's just shows a little bit of a budget there on the right-hand side. And it just shows this is potentially what something might look like, okay? And it, again, reduces those barriers of the unknown and increases the trust. So during this process as well, this how we work with you process, we're really focusing on the features and then the benefits of your business, okay? So what are the tools, the features, the benefits that you have in your business at each one of these stages, okay? That's what's going to be one of the core things that we focus on during the how we work with you process. So the benefits of your features. So the features, again, like we've harped on about this quite a few times, and it's you focus and you compete on your people, on your product, and on your process, not your price. So on your people, why they're awesome, what they bring to the table, what is the benefits of using your team? Are they, you know, young and really up to date with all the building code and stuff, or are they a big team, so you've got massive labor force behind you, or are they a small team, so they work closely together and they get stuff done? What's the benefit of the end product that you use? Is it more energy efficient? That sort of stuff. And what's the process that you use? What's unique about you? Okay? All that stuff. Cool. So moving through this stuff pretty quickly, but if you guys have any questions, then just shout out at any moment. So in the chat box, I'll post it again for anybody who's new and it might not show up for you. In the chat box, there is a download. Today's download is for this framework on how to fill in, basically how to fill in your how we work with you process, okay? And there's 2 parts, it looks like this, and there's 2 parts to what we're going to cover today. One are the stages or the steps, and the second is the copy and the actual writing that goes behind those steps, okay? The main steps that we have are really what parts, I mean, they can be any steps, and in that example that's available for you guys to download in the chat, the step those are like the main steps I would say most people use. And the reason that they're more heavily focused on those beginning parts, like during the sales process, is because that's the part that the sale's made on. You really want to control that process more than anything. Okay, so that's the part that you show them and explain to them through different stuff. And because they're not as, I don't want to say highly educated as you guys, but they're not as understanding and like fully over exactly how the construction phases work, the average person, as they are for that, as much as you guys are, because you eat, sleep, and breathe this. Okay, you don't need to break down all the complexities of doing a build for them. They already have sort of like an understanding, like build starts, we make changes, then we finish, sort of thing. Okay, but it's in that lead up part where you need to really control the process. So you can use that as a template, or you can build your own steps down. If you're going to choose what main steps you use, you really want to limit it to 7 and 8. No more than, if you have more than 10 steps, we're just getting into that overwhelm area. We don't want to include 10 steps. That's way too many. But also we don't want to condense the entire complex process right down to like 2 or 3. That's too few. I think that the right number of steps is like 7, 8, maybe 9. Okay, but it's really up to you guys in terms of how you want to communicate your process, because how you communicate your process is how you also communicate the benefits of working with you and the benefits around your people, your product, and your process. Okay, so when choosing what parts or stages or steps to use, think about what steps you need to control, what steps or times in the building process you need to influence, and what times, parts, or steps you interact with the client at. Okay, so start with those 3. What times do you control the process? What times do you need to control it? What times do you influence it? And what times do you interact with the client? And once you've made a short list of sort of those things, and they're really going to be fairly similar to the ones that are in the example, but there might be some that are unique to you. You then want to go on and start thinking about all the sales conversations that you've had and all the builds for other people that you've done, and think, what are the parts of the process that are really just like exciting, emotional, or that you always get a question around, or that are really important, like cool and unique. Okay, so for example, like the really emotional part would be when the first maybe when the walls start going up. I hear from a lot of guys that, you know, it's not real until they can actually stand between 4 walls, sort of thing. And then once they're able to do that, it really becomes quite a significant and emotional sort of time, because it's all finally coming together, if it's like a new build, for example. So maybe that's one of those points that you might work slightly differently with somebody on, by having a site visit once the walls are up, because it's at that point when it's a really emotional and exciting experience for them. And maybe that's the point that you have your site visit, and that's the that's the time that you say in your process, constant communication, you'll come onto site once the walls are up to just review the plans, make sure that we're all on the same page, and that to see how your job's progressing, sort of thing. Think of the other parts of the process that are maybe really complex and you get a lot of questions around. You know, if you find that you're always getting questions around the maybe the contract signing phase, one of the points in your how we work with you process should potentially be around that point in the journey, and you can explain that complex process in a fairly easy way, hopefully. Guys, really, it comes down to however many main steps you've got, you don't want more than 9, okay? You don't want fewer than 5, really. And you just want to really make it very clear as to how you work with somebody, whereby identifying some key points in the process at which you interact with one another, you influence decisions that are fun, exciting, emotional, or quite complex, okay? So once you've identified those things, once you've got those things, you're going to break down the copy for each one quite specifically, okay, into a what, who, and why. So what, who, and why. So for example, what is this step? This step is the site visit, okay, where we'll come onto the site and we'll review your plans, do this, do that, do that. So what is the process? What is the action? Okay. Who features? So it's the site visit. We'll have Corey and Nikki and maybe somebody else present, because I would like to introduce you to my entire team, and I'd also like you to introduce you to my leading foreman, who's going to be running the job day to day. And then why? So why do you do this or have this? So why is this step really important? So why have this step over just emailing you the quote or just you sending the stuff through? And this reason why copy is incredibly important, because what you want to do is you want to not so much justify, but show your expertise. Okay, so we find that it's best to have everybody on site for the site visit, so we can get a really good idea of what it is that you want to achieve, and we can also work out how our crew and our leading guys will work with you guys as our valued clients, sort of thing. So reason why, and you can also have reason why not. So if you don't do this, like for example, it works really well if people are saying that you should go and get plans from an architect first before consulting a builder. You know, it could be reason why not. So it could be, make sure that you get in touch with us first rather than going to an architect, because what we have found is that if you go straight to an architect, your plans often don't match the budget that you've allocated for this build. So you can play reason why both positive and negative, like do this because, or make sure you do this because if you don't, then this will happen. I'll read your question. What you've got is, so the first step would start from the contact. Yeah, the first step in the process would start from the initial contact. So it would be like, first step, get in touch with us. So the action or the process would be like, get in touch with us. The first step is to get in touch with us here at CJS Construction. We're looking, because get in touch, and then you'll talk to one of the team, like Tammy in the office, and the reason that we do this is so that we can work out, what kind of work that you want to do and how you want to put it together, sort of thing. And then the next step might be a phone call with yourself. So step 2, phone call with the owner. After you've got in touch to see whether or not we can help, we'll put you through to a phone call with Callum, who's our director. And what he'll do is he'll work out exactly how we can help. He'll identify time to come meet on site, and he'll also lay out specifically how we might be able to work together, sort of thing. Okay. And then the next step would be site visit. So you might go step 1, initial contact, step 2, phone call with owner, step 3, site visit. So it'll be get in touch with Tammy or with the office so that we can identify whether or not we can help you. You'll have a phone call with Callum, our director. He's going to, and then why we do this, he's going to work out very specifically what you want to achieve and what your budget, what your timeline is, and all the other specific nitty-gritty details of where you're at in your process. Step 3, once we've got a good idea of what it is you want to achieve, we're going to go even deeper, and we're going to meet on site with John, our foreman, and Callum, our main guy. We do this because we find that it's really important to see the site, meet you guys in person, and get a better understanding of what it is you want to achieve, sort of thing. Okay, so really basic there. We go what, who, why, and we basically start right at the very beginning of the process because we want to prompt that initial contact as well. And also then, if people always like to place themselves somewhere along the continuum or somewhere along the process, so if they're already past that point, and they can go, oh yeah, I remember that phone call with such and such or whatever, I'm actually further down here. Okay, so the next point is to do this. hopefully that answers your question, Callum. If it does, then awesome. If not, then please let me know and I'll try. Yep, all good. You're welcome, buddy. So what's the process? What is the action? Explain the step. If it's complex, use the phrase "it's like." Yeah, so to explain really complex things, we can use the phrase "it's like." So rather than, and I found that this has worked really well when helping people to market the eco homes and the passive homes. There's so much data and there's so much stuff to back up why they're healthy, like why they're good, and you know, the benefits and not so much the benefits, sorry, but the features of like the structured insulated panels and all these other amazing things that are out there. But it's complex and it goes over 99% of people's heads when they're like just looking for a renovation or just want a new build. Like they're like, oh wow, that sounds cool, yeah, but my eyes glazed over about 30 minutes ago. Okay, so using the phrase "it's like" really simplifies it at this point in the journey. So saying stuff like, we use structured insulated panels. It's like wrapping your home in NASA heavy duty insulation, and it saves big bucks in the long run, sort of thing. It's like doing something else. So signing this contract is like having a watertight agreement with your builder. Signing up to the Halo guarantee is like having the largest bank in the UK stand behind our builder's work, sort of thing. Like, it's like something. Make it really easy for people to understand and to comprehend. Very easy way to shorten lengthy copy. Okay. So that's the first point. What is the process? Get in touch with us on a phone. We're going to have a phone call with the owner. It's like an audition. It's like an X Factor audition where we get to meet each other and work out whether or not we'll be a good fit. Who features? So introduce your team and your wider network. Remember in the info pack how I always say that there are 4 key questions that you need to answer. Who are you? Who's your team? How can I trust you? And how can you help me specifically? Who are you? Who's your team? How can I trust you? How can you help me specifically? So who features? Who's the team, right? Introduce your leading hand earlier in the piece if you know that he's going to be in charge of the build. And then you avoid that confusion later down the line when somebody says, oh, I never, I thought you were going to be on site every day. I thought I hired you. But now you've just got your team doing the job. No. If you strategic advantage and if your unique selling point is your team and how awesome your team are, then introduce them early as part of the sales process, right? So have Corey the foreman or Paul the foreman come along early and during that site visit so that he can meet the people and introduce them. Russ really loves this step and he uses it with Cody all the time and his leading guys that are going to be running the specific jobs. He takes them along to the site visit, okay? So that he can also teach them and show them how the business runs and how he does the price, or not him, but how Peter does the pricing and what's important to look for and different things like that. And it's a way of teaching the young guys, hey, the owner's not just off-site not working, he's actually off-site doing this other stuff as well. So a really cool way to show a career progression and an extension of you guys in your business, and also to work as a sales and marketing strategy by introducing people earlier so that they're comfortable, they know, like, and trust your team as well as you. And then lastly, this is the most important element, okay? And it's why. Why do this? Why do you have this section, okay? Because if you don't do this, this happens. So you can use positive and negative why stacks, okay? So for example, maybe we now have our QS come along to the site visit because we find that it leads to a far more accurate price. If we do it this way, we find that it leads to a far more, safe working environment. Okay, like often around the step of, I know that there is one team of guys who are here in Auckland who are offering like a escape package okay? And it's in their how we work with you process, and it's towards the end of the build. They shout their clients a weekend away to Waiheke, okay? And it's in their how we work with you process, and it says the reason why says something along the lines of, we do this because we know that building is super stressful, and we find that at this point of the build, it's often been going on for a long time, it's worrying, and it's almost there, but it's not quite finished. So we'd love to send you away so that you can relax and then come back to enjoy your finished home, sort of thing. So they send people away for a weekend, and their why stack is around about how stressful it can be at this point. So they're really looking after. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. So the main steps that we go through are the points at which you have influence over the decisions, the points at which you have interaction with the clients, and the points that are emotive, the points that are exciting, the points that really get you going or them going. And then the copy below each of those points needs to go what, who, why. What is it that is happening here? Who is it that is doing it or with you or interacting? And why do you do it? Okay?